Welcome, 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 students. Hopefully you're having an awesome day. This week in this module, we're going to discuss Chapter 3, which is defining stress and talking about stress. And I kind of joke that, of course, you don't have any stress. You're only students. Are you kidding me? There's no more stressful situation in life, to be honest, that I can think of besides being a student. It places unique stressors on you that are in addition to the stressors you face in your regular life, which can be very stressful on its own. These are the learning objectives for the week, and we'll talk about all of these things as we go through our PowerPoint today. College students always report the number one obstacle to their achievement in academics is stress. And sleep difficulties obviously play a large part in this as well. I often ask my students many times, do you have a hard time falling asleep? And they all raise their hand, and I say, do you have a hard time going back to sleep if you wake up? And then everybody raises their hand again. And it's because we do this laundry list in our mind of things that we have to do, bills that we have to pay, issues that we're having, confrontations that we have to deal with, and so on. And all of those things add stress, and they also are perpetuated and displayed in our sleep habits. And changing the way we think is really the critical role in trying to deal with our stress. Many of people report feeling extreme stress. Of course they do, especially being a student. I don't care for that slide discusses 18 to 29-year-olds because our students come in all ages, and all ages of students deal with stress. And many times, the older you get, the more family responsibilities you can have, and that can impact your stress level even more. Many impediments to academic performance, stress being the biggest one, sleep difficulties being the next. I can see that for sure. I see some of you that come in at my 3 o'clock classes and you are exhausted. And it's not because I'm extremely boring, which could be the truth, but it's because it's after lunch, you've wound down, and you really are tired from the night before, from working and from kids and from sports and jobs and everything else. All of those things combined, the top four also include the anxiety, which we discussed last week, can make stress even more difficult. What is stress? It's essentially looking at this condition that occurs in a reaction to anything that disrupts or is unexpected or stimulating. And a stressor is any physical or psychological condition, event, or factor that causes stress. Now, let me give you an example. One example would be that you're driving down the highway, and all of a sudden you're with someone and you're going 100, and a police officer pulls up behind you, which is a very likely scenario here in Palm Beach County, considering that the police are everywhere. Everywhere. I'm from Michigan. We don't have this many police in the entire state. But anyway, you're driving along, and then all of a sudden a police officer, and you hear that siren. Now, most of you can feel the stress in your stomach right now, just even thinking about that. Now the guy you're with says, by the way, I have a pound of cocaine in the trunk. And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, now the stress is 100% capacity. Your whole body would be feeling this stress. That's just the response of the physical response of your stress. The problem is we don't face 100% of stress all the time, but we do face 10, 20% stress all the time. And that compounds and builds, and it stays with us. And that gives us a feeling of anxiety, a feeling of stomach issues, a feelings of headaches, feelings of nervousness, all of those things. Because we carry with us a small amount throughout the day, every day, that increases our blood pressure and also plays a lot of physical impact on us. Now, two different types of stress. The one I just mentioned would definitely be a negative stress, distress, or the kind of stress when you're driving and you're about to hit a deer or something. Those are definitely difficult stressors. Or stressors that are interpersonal, like an argument with a family member. Eustress would be stress from positive stressors. Anybody ever gotten married? It's slightly stressful planning the event, getting married, doing all of that, or buying a house. Or sometimes I watch my husband watch a football game and he looks like he's going to collapse and die from the stress of the game. But to him, that's a positive eustress. How your body deals with the stress response is very specific. You have this sense of homeostasis, which is the balance that your body creates in the psychobiological changes that occur, and you try to always return it to this balance. And the physical response to this stress, when you have these stresses, like I said, at 100% stress, you have all of these things. But we have these at 20% a lot of the time. Rapid breathing, feeling nervous, adrenaline rush, our eyes, pupils dilating, producing extra blood clotting factor, our blood pressure goes up, our digestive system bothers us. Sometimes we have irritable bowel or bowel issues. We release extra glucose from our liver. So it does have a very physical response. And that's on top of your heart rate increasing. Now imagine if I said right now to stand up in front of a class and give a presentation about a battle during the Civil War that you've never heard of. You would have additional stress responses. You might not be able to breathe. I've had students that have passed out during a presentation. You might have sweaty palms, no spit and saliva in your mouth, an instant headache, and so on. So these are all definite immediate responses. The fight or flight response kicks in anytime you face a stressor. It was essentially a survival mechanism, so you could escape that lion that was about to chase you, but temporarily boosts strength and reflexes to physically enable avoiding or confrontation of danger. Most modern day stressors are not the extreme physical threats that the fight or flight response is designed for, and it can take a very powerful toll on the body and your health. That instant reaction that you have to stress can really take a toll on your body. Your mouth can go dry, all of the things I just mentioned, breathing faster, you start to sweat, digestion slows, blood clotting, muscle tensing, your hands grip, all of those things. Instead of being chased by a lion, now you're standing up for a presentation and trying to do the best you can, and your body has this response. The general adaptation syndrome, also known as the GAS, is the body's attempt to stay in homeostasis, which is just balance. And I'd like to talk about the 3 stages, which will make perfect sense to you after they're done. The alarm, the resistance, and the exhaustion. The alarm stage is when you're first confronted by the stress. Your body activates the fight or flight response and boosts your level of hormones, increasing your heart rate and doing all the physical things that we mentioned. The resistance, as the stress continues, say it's the same stress, a continued, say, confrontation with a family member continually, or bills or finances and continual snowballing. And your body continues to turn its internal resources to deal with the stressor and to try to restore balance. This is difficult for your body to do and in turn can create anxiety for you. Exhaustion is after long exposure to the stress, your body just eventually cannot handle it and you cannot continue to function normally. And I think some of us have gotten to this point with our stressors in many situations when it's just become too much. This is what it looks like on a diagram, and you can see homeostasis as the physiological balance at the bottom, the alarm stage, your resistance, and then the crash and burn, which is the exhaustion. Symptoms of chronic stress, and we can see this, and if you have stress, you have chronic stress. Teeth grinding, no sleeping, chest tightness, upset stomach, muscle tensions, lack of sex drive, headache, laying awake at night, which I think is the biggest one, and fatigue, feeling tired quite often. Feeling angry and irritable can be a byproduct of this. Lacking interest or motivation in regular daily activities, feeling anxious and nervous most of the time, or sad and depressed. What are some of the health effects of having chronic stress? Increasing your risk of heart disease is the biggest one, and that results in your heart increasing its heart rate, your lungs pumping and delivering more oxygenated blood that your body thinks it needs from the stress response, and the increase in your blood pressure can result in digestive problems. I think we all know that when we're nervous, we're more likely to have stomach problems, diarrhea, constipation. Weakening our immune system. I often get the most sick right around exam week when I'm trying to grade everything and put together all my work. Compromises your mental health and your concentration. You cannot focus, your memory is affected, and it's a collection of these things that have prolonged exposure to the body's physiological stress response. Some of the other health effects of long-term stress, your weakened immune system, risk of heart disease, just a diagram of all of the things that we just mentioned on the last slide. Stress overload. Some of you are thinking, please tell me what this is, because I am stress overload. The emotional warning signs. Do you have anxiety, sleep disruption continually, many times anger and agitation, and then you look back and think you overreacted, trouble concentrating, memory issues, not being productive but just continuing to worry. There's that saying I mentioned before about do not worry about the things you can control and do not worry about the things you can't. If you can't control them, there's no point in worrying. If you can control them, then do something about them. Frequent mood swings and feeling depressed. The physical ones, when we look at all of these, and we've talked about a lot of the physical signs, weight loss, weight gain, migraine, headaches, neck aches, digestion, stomach issues, chronic fatigue, sweaty palms. You might think they're also associated with something else, but they could be just a direct link to your stress. Behavioral warning signs, overreacting to problems. I think one of the biggest ones that's not on here either is not being able to take yourself lightly. Have you ever done something that was funny but you couldn't laugh at yourself? I think that can be a reaction to stress. Increased use of things that are self-medicating like alcohol or drugs. Unusually impulsive behaviors, withdrawing from people, being burnt out. I know many of us have felt that at times with school and work. Crying, anxiety, and panic in situations. Common causes. Financial stressors. Of course this is a common cause. And many of us are sitting there facing common causes of financial stressors, and just me saying that is making you think of your cable bill being shut off, or someone suing you for your credit card bill, or not being able to afford to be able to put your son or daughter into the daycare that you need so you can continue to work. Or in an extreme situation, many of you are looking for work. How stressful, much more stressful can that be? So all of those things are really big stressors, and I completely get that. And thinking of those in the way that if you cannot control it, do the best you can. If you can control it, continue to move in a positive direction towards change, and that'll alleviate some of the stress you're dealing with. Daily hassles. This could be from school or from work or from people and friends. Many times those create hassles. Sometimes you can distance yourself from them, and sometimes you can't. Academic pressure. Be realistic and be firm in your expectations, but don't be unrealistic. And don't have expectations on yourself that are placed on you by your parents or grandparents or other people to be perfect. I think that can create a lot of pressure on its own. Job-related issues. You have a boss that you hate. Social stressors, you just got broken up with, major life events, those are all very stressful. All kinds of things. Strategies for reducing these stressors. The biggest thing I can think of is this tells you all kinds of managing your time effectively. Of course that works, but some of you are so busy that's difficult to do. One of the things with school that I find gets put to the wayside is that with school you take 12 credits, and you think, well, that's only 12 hours a week. Well, out of 12 hours, how many hours extra do you think that requires an outside of class work? Probably another 20, at least another 10. So that makes it 25 hours a week. Plus you work full-time, or you're looking for work full-time, and you have a family, or you have a responsibility in a relationship, or you plan a sports team, or whatever it may be that you have to do. So you've committed yourself to 60, 70, 80, 90 hours of things a week, but we don't realize that, and we don't fully account for that. So managing your time is key in making sure that you're not overloaded at certain times because it's just overwhelming for your body. Get enough sleep. And some of you say that's so hard to do because you have so much to do in the day. Managing your time can help you better with that, as well as setting up a normal sleep routine and making sure that your sleep routine doesn't involve Facebook, eBay, Craigslist, and video games until 11 o'clock, and then you shut it off and expect your brain to comply and shut down. Having a good sleep routine helps. Eating well and exercising. Nothing makes you more tired at night to sleep well than exercise. Strengthen a support network of people you trust. Communicate with others. Take time for something that you enjoy. And that may just be time with playing with your children, taking a bath. If you've got a crowded house, that could be time for something you enjoy. Rollerblading, swimming, or whatever it is. I've had many students that have kept a journal in the past and talked about just the act of writing, even if it was scribbling or art doodling or scrapbooking or writing their thoughts just free form in a journal, helped to alleviate a lot of the stress that was in their life. When we look at sleep deprivation, how this adds to stress, stress affects the sleep quality. And we sleep less than 7 to 9 hours. Of course we do. This is a joke for me even saying this. You'd be lucky if you had 5 hours of good sleep each night. This affects us all day long, and sleep debt is caused by sleeping less than we need, and it can't be made up, but it can be avoided by getting enough quality sleep each night. It can't be made up in one night. Do you ever do this where you go hard all week and you don't get any sleep, and on Saturday night you sleep till noon and you think you've made up your sleep? You haven't. It takes days and days and days to be able to recuperate from that. Some of the tips: be consistent. What happens is during the week we go to bed somewhat earlier, and on the weekends we stay up really late. Then it's hard to get back into the routine. And if you can't fall asleep within a certain time, do something until you're sleepy. And that doesn't mean electronics, because those stimulate your mind. Make your bedroom dark, quiet, and cool. Don't have caffeine anytime after lunch. Avoid things that are stimulants as well that keep you up, like alcohol and cigarettes. Exercise early in the day. Avoid all-nighters, and don't work in bed. Which is kind of funny because I'm recording this while I'm sitting in bed. But give yourself time to wind down before sleep, and try not to nap or sleep on the weekends or during the day, because that can really make a big difference in whether you're going to be able to fall asleep. Strategies for managing your stress. Now these are some of the things that we've included here that are visualization, which is thinking of yourself at the beach, and progressive muscular relaxation, flexing and relaxing each muscle group until you're relaxed. Meditation, which is just a fancy way of thinking of concentration, deep breathing, and relaxation. Music, massage, and so on. But one of the biggest ways that you can change your response to relaxation is just being mindful and living in the moment, and being mindful of the thoughts that you have at the present time. If you're sitting in a class, absorb yourself in that class, as opposed to thinking about picking up your kids, your dry cleaning, making sure that this bill's paid by 5 o'clock, making sure that you hustle back out to your car for your parking ticket, all of the things that we do. And I completely get that it's very hard to focus and to live in the moment. And that's just being mindful of every moment that you have. The more mindful you can be about the current situation you're in and the current place and time that you occupy, the better you're going to be in the end. If I asked you how many times a day that you worried and you said more than 10, then we have a problem. And the problem is each worry takes a little toll on your spirit and your soul and your heart. And that makes it difficult for your body to continue to function without anxiety, without all of those issues that go along to it. So this is where I come to reframe your thinking. Rewrite your internal messages. How do you talk to yourself? Now this is interesting because some of you have an automatic negative internal message. Your first message is, I'm not good enough, I'm not fast enough, I'm not strong enough, whatever it is. I'm not smart enough, I'm going to get in trouble, I'm going to lose my house, all of these things. Some of those things might be relevant, but to think the way that you think and having an automatic negative internal message is dangerous. Think a positive one. And if you can't think in a positive way about yourself, think about how someone else thinks about you. And it's someone that looks up to you and loves you with everything that they are. And that's how I want you to envision yourself in all situations. Be realistic in your expectations so that way you're not always setting yourself up for failure. Build your self-esteem by disregarding and ignoring or getting rid of the people around you that bring your esteem down. Be positive and proactive. If you are actively working towards and doing parts of a research paper that you have due at the end of the semester every week, and you get that done early, you will have much less stress and be able to sleep better at night than if you wait, pull an all-nighter the night before, and had stress this whole time and thought, man, that only took me 4 hours. And you could have done that in a much earlier way and saved yourself 1,000 times of worry that took you away from your mental space during dinner, during a movie, during times out with friends, and so on. Tackle problems immediately. Have a good sense of humor with the ability to laugh at yourself. Look at the big picture. Accept that you can't control everything and disregard the things that you can't control as far as worrying. Share your feelings with others or with counselors and therapists and people that you support and trust. Seek help if you need it. Truly. I think a lot of times, sometimes we feel weak if we're considering counseling. There's nothing weak about it. This is a new day and age. Counselors are there to be able to talk with us and get us through these situations. In last week's PowerPoint, I'd given you the number for the counseling service on Palm Beach State's campus. If you just go to the if you just go to the Palm Beach State webpage under the search box and put in counseling, it's the first thing that comes up. They're an excellent group. It's free, and you get 5 free visits. And those are really big things to discuss and to be able to get help with if you need it. For your assessing, you'll be completing the self-assessment in this chapter and the behavior change workshop, which is excellent. Both of those hopefully will help you be able to come to terms with your personal stress. Use this as an opportunity not just to do the assignment, but to be able to pull things out that are specific to you, to use this and help you in how you deal with your stress. Choosing stress management plan that will work for you. Remember, managing stress is not only a long-term commitment, but the biggest way we can manage stress is reframing the way we think about every situation. Have you ever had somebody that stubbed their toe and got a parking ticket and it was the end of the world? And then you had someone instead who was dealing with cancer, loss of a loved one, a stressful situation with family, no money, all of these things, and dealt with it in a much different way, in a much more positive way. And we know which one's going to be healthier for us in the end, and that's to attempt to live as stress-free as we possibly can.